Good evening, Fernwood. My name's Neil, and you are joining me for my trip through the entire series of Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman, a very cool and weird and odd soap opera from the 1970s. We are coming up on the February 23rd, 1976 episode. Let's do a little bit of catching up on what's going on. Mary and Tom are back together, starting to bicker a little bit. They've still got a lot to work on. George and Martha still do not approve of Kathy's plan to marry her boyfriend, Steve, who happens to be deaf and mute. And the big story that seems to be building itself is that Loretta and Charlie, well, Loretta's back from the hospital, and in forwarding the plans that they've got, there are two things that have come up. Charlie has just signed a loan that he didn't actually read. It seems pretty sketchy. I expect it will be very sketchy. And also, there's been an announcement that Durrell de Doremus, the faith healer, is coming to town. That's been 3 days of mentions of this character, so they've been building it up pretty well. I expect we'll be seeing that character very soon. I know that they want Tom and Mary to show up. That is as much as I'm ready to wrap up for now. So let us begin February 23rd, 1976's Monday episode. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Luther Moon, Mabel and Elmer's boy. Maybe you can tell from this outfit I'm wearing that I'm one of the local trash men here in Fernwood, Ohio. At the moment I'm picking up the trash at Mary Hartman's. Now, people usually look down on trash men, so that's why you may never see me on that TV show they're making about Mary Hartman. That's the one they call Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman.
What?
By the way, how do you like that for a name? Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman. They're not satisfied just to say it once. Anyway, us guys who collect trash probably know more about people than all the TV cameras do. The TV cameras have been poking around Fernwood for a lot of weeks. That's my job too, poking around Fernwood. And I'll bet you as a trash man, I know more about what's going on in people's lives around here than the cameras do. I don't know what all these are. Oh, looks like Kathy's got a new boyfriend. Roses are red, violets are blue. I'm speechless over you. I don't think a fortune teller or one of them high-priced international clairvoyants could tell you more about Kathy than I've been learning from these trash cans.
Mommy, sit down, please. Daddy is just going to love him, and so are you. Well, actually, Steve doesn't talk at all.
He'll be dependent on you for the rest of your life.
Daddy just hasn't gotten to know Steve, that's all.
I make you feel like writing poetry? Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Hi, King.
Oh, hello, sweetheart.
Mwah. This is the most glorious day in my life.
Well, how come?
Last night I was with Steve for the first time, and it was fabulous.
I don't think I want to hear this. I don't want to hear about any of this.
But, Daddy,
I
look.
don't want to hear about it.
He was fabulous?
He was fabulous.
Well, what did he do that made him fabulous? How's the cake, Dad?
Fabulous.
Well, it's not what he did. It's what he is.
What is he?
Well, he's different, and he's a deaf mute.
Oh, and that makes him fabulous?
No, Mary, you don't understand. You see, when a person loses two of their senses, their other senses are heightened, and Steve's senses are so heightened that it was fabulous.
Oh, please, girls, remember me. I'm the father with a bad heart.
Yeah, have some coffee, Dad.
And guess what else?
What?
Come on, Daddy. I want you to hear this too.
Thanks.
They want to publish Steve's poetry.
In a book?
Publishers in New York City. Isn't that fabulous?
Oh, Kathy, we're not going to get into that again, are we?
But he's going to be famous and rich.
Rich? writing poetry. Kathy, poetry is junk.
They are not junk.
Kathy, I'm much older than you, and I've seen junk, and when I see junk, I know junk. Now, he's not going to get rich, and he's not going to do a thing for you. Don't you realize I'm doing this because I love you?
And I hate you. And I never want to speak to you again for as long as we both shall live.
Oh, this is great. Every man in this town is sitting having his breakfast reading his newspaper, except me. I have to read a letter from a guy who wants to steal my daughter and break my heart.
You feel such sweet feelings, George, but for all of the wrong reasons.
This guy has got to be out of his skull. Do you know what this letter says?
What?
He wants my blessings for his marriage to Kathy. Oh, good. Now he wants me to answer his letter.
Write a polite answer, George. Be nice.
Oh, I'll be nice.
I don't like what's going on in this house. Kathy isn't speaking to George. George is acting like he's gonna kill Steve.
Martha, how do you spell snowball? Is that one word or two?
Snowball?
Yeah, like you got as much chance as a snowball in hell.
Oh, well, I'm a Mary Hartman. I'm poking around in the trash. By the way, I hope you folks won't think ill of me for poking around in other people's trash. I mean, whatever line of work you're in, I'm sure you find some ways to make your work more interesting. Like if you're in the service business, you aggravate people just for the kick of watching their blood boil. If you're a professional man, you do your best to overcharge. At least you give it a good try. Well, the only way a trash man can have fun is just to poke around a little. I found this little guitar pick. Like this, see? It's a worn one. Loretta Haggers is probably over here playing for a friend. And I'll tell you something. The way those Haggers throw things away around here, there are no, and I mean no, secrets.
That was Dr. Furman. You're pregnant.
Come.
We got the Vega packed up to the gills. We're all gassed up. We're raring to go. I know what. Tell me about the demonstration record.
I seem to have gotten the pregnancy tests mixed up.
But it's very possible that she will never be able to walk again.
Harley, Derelda, Doremus, I can't believe.
What kind of a god person would change her name from Irma Perlmutter to Derelda Doremus?
Live television show. Will y'all come?
Are we gonna go see Derelda Doremus' TV show with Red and Charlie?
Derelda Doremus is a fake. I mean, you read it yourself in that magazine, all those hallelujahs and laying on of hands and all those miraculous cures. It's as phony as her name.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way too. But Loretta has faith in her. You know what they say? Faith can move mountains.
Mary, Derelda Doremus will not move Loretta out of that wheelchair.
I suppose by now, seeing what a fellow like me learns about people, you're all thinking of getting into the trash business. Well, I'll tell you something my father told me a long time ago. Shoemaker, he said, stick to your last. I don't know why he always called me Shoemaker. He should have known our name was Moon even way back then. This business is a heck of a lot less simple than it seems to be. I mean, when you're sifting around through other people's thrown away things, you better be profound. I mean, when you run across this thing, this old photograph of Tom Hartman, you better know the people who live here before you start trying to guess what their problems are. I've been at this a long time, and I can tell you from the state of this photograph, that Mary has been having some personal problems.
How the hell can a man make love to a woman in a situation like this? How?
But I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about 8 weeks ago, Tom.
I had a wonderful time last night.
You had 2 wonderful times last night.
Wouldn't you like to see me? Alone? In private?
Mayor Linsky.
What about her?
Look, Mary, I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was just one of those things.
Do you want me to sing my song for you?
Name is here? Mayor Linsky? Because our marriage is over.
Mary.
I told you I know about May.
Well, it's very important. Can you come over now?
Well, what do you mean by that? He left
I guess you guys call it a case.
You mean VD? He left VD?
You know, last night,
Yeah.
When I was with you, I gave it to you.
Tom has moved out, and he's gonna live with Charlie.
I made a terrible mistake. Oh, that's very sweet of you.
To my wife. My best friend. My companion. The woman I love.
Oh, Tom. That's so beautiful.
As you can see, there's just about nothing going on in Fernwood, Ohio, that I don't know about. If there is, it damn well isn't showing up in the trash. For you folks who like to watch television, let me tell you something about trash collectors. You can keep the comedies. We like the serious stuff. Here's one of the serious moments I like best. Thank you, and good night.
The thing that gets me about clip shows, right, is that they're all reused material. And I understand this was the period when there was no VHS, there was no DVD, there was no streaming service, there was no way to go back and watch things that had passed. So I get that need to help new audience members catch up, and on a Monday that's a perfect choice. And so many storylines were coming to the head that it was really helpful to kind of keep people in the loop, you know. This show does a lot of repeating information, so you'll hear the same things again and again and again from different characters' mouths and different social situations. So it's not too hard to stay in, but I feel like touching base with all of the storylines is really, really cool in this setting. To have this episode narrated by the trash man of the town who is picking up on the news from just looking at garbage, because you know apparently that's what garbage collectors do. It's not really, but it is a pretty interesting look at a clip episode. So we saw the three stories that I literally had just outlined for you before we started the episode. There's a little bit with Grandpa and Roberta that didn't show up, and I mean, we've only seen one scene with the Fetters together. I don't know if that scene is just going to be lost to history or what. With Steve and Kathy and the whole family issues around them, you know, I think a lot of the family seems to confuse spoken words and communication. And I wish that there were a little bit more effort on their part. Obviously, it's a soap opera and a comedic drama, so they're not going to do that effort. But I think that we've seen some shows where people do the work a little bit, and that's the challenge, and that's what's fun. And here it's more like, oh, you are different, therefore that is the challenge. It puts the onus, it puts the weight of the challenge on the person who happens to stand out, in this case, Steve. When it comes to Charlie and Loretta, they are a very sweet couple who maybe don't make the best decisions. They've had some really, really bad luck, and I just hope that what happens for them is nice. But I guess we'll see. There are a few elements of their story that didn't get touched on, like the fact that the doctor had made a call to make a surgery that was unnecessary, and thus she can't walk. I mean, there's a lot of confusion in that story. There's a lot of like unnecessary threads that just got summed up right here. And then Tom and Mary, they conflate the state of being married with the work of being married. And I think that they forget that there's work that's necessary to make their relationship healthy. And that work really isn't happening, but, you know, the forgiveness has happened, so that's good enough. And, you know, again, I've never been married, so I can only guess, but I understand. I've listened to to people enough to understand that it's not easy. This episode combined clips that we had already seen from the series with newly shot summary scenes that kind of helped nail where the characters' points of views were, like the scenes with George and Kathy and Steve and Martha, and the scenes with Loretta and Charlie. I really appreciated that addition to the show as well, that not only the scenes that existed, but sort of let's just make sure that those little extra bits make sense. That was my summary of the February 23rd, 1976 episode of Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman, a clip show, a garbage clip show, a clip show with a little extra. Thank you so much for joining, and we will see you tomorrow night in Fernwood.